Canadian-Congolese artist Moridja Kitenge Banza was born in Kinshasa in 1980. That's so young. I have to say, wow. In the Democratic Republic of Congo. He holds degrees from the l'Académie des Beaux-Arts de Kinshasa, from l'École supérieure des Beaux-Arts de Nantes, Métropole in France, and from the Humanities, l'Université de La Rochelle. He is the recipient of the Léopold Senghor Grand Prize of the Biennale of Contemporary African Art in 2010, and one of 25 long-listed artists to receive the Sobi Art Award in 2020, which is the COVID cohort, as we call them, the extraordinary generation of artists that were acknowledged in that year. He has had recent solo exhibitions at the Art Gallery of Ontario and the Five Foundation in Montreal, and his work has also been exhibited at Musée Dauphinoise in Grenoble, France, at the Museum of Contemporary Art, Roskilde, Denmark, at the Biennale Internationale de Casablanca in Morocco, and at the Musée d'Art de Montréal, the Montreal Museum of Fine Art, the Montreal Museum of Contemporary Art, and the National Gallery of Canada, among many other institutions. So you may have only been born in 1980, but boy, have you been busy. This is unbelievable. Anyway, he's been visiting us here from Montreal, and of course, this show is a revelation on so many levels. The intelligence, the insights that he brings, the exquisite sensuality of his command of color and form and materials. It's really an honor for us to have you with us. John Geoghegan, seated here closer to me, is our Associate Curator, Collections and Research at the McMichael Canadian Art Collection. He earned an MA in Art History from York University in 2022, where we hired him the week after he put his MA thesis in, I believe it was. I've been sort of saying, as soon as you get that thesis done, we're hiring you. I was good at my word. He did a major research paper focused on the life and work of Lilias Torrance Newton, an extraordinarily under-regarded modernist woman painter from Montreal that he's now the reigning expert on. He is the former senior editor of the Inuit Art Quarterly, where he worked from 2016 to 2020 and did a lot of important work. Geoghegan has also contributed to publications for the McMichael and the Justina Barnacle Gallery at the University of Toronto, now Art Museum Toronto, University of Toronto. He's interested in uncovering lost or forgotten stories in Canadian art history and is at the beginning of what I think will be an extraordinary career in Canadian art that I'm so happy to have been able to be a part of. We've been amigos now for almost a decade, and he's helped me on many projects as a researcher, and I am his devoted fan. Anyway, without any further ado, John and Moridja, have a good time.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome, Moridja, and everyone here joining us today. We're going to have an informal conversation and kind of talk about Moridja's career so far and the exhibition that we have on display downstairs that I hope that everyone here has already been able to see. If not, I urge you to take a look after this presentation. Moridja, I was wondering if you could start by talking about where your interest in art began and some of your early training at the Académie des Beaux-Arts de Kinshasa in Congo.
Oh, it's a long story. And thank you to be here with us. And my interest with art began, first of all, I want to do cinema, but we didn't have a cinema school at Kinshasa. And I chose architecture, but they told me you will use mathematics, so I don't like mathematics. So. And I'm a singer, I was doing music, but my parents say no, no music. Well, the only choice I have, it was to going to the art school, to fine art school, because I have one of my uncle is a painter, but it was also problematic because in my family, I'm the first of the 9 children. So people were saying, oh, you will be poor. Because your uncle is poor, he's doing a painting, you need to choose other things. So I decided, I say, no, I will just doing painting. And that's why I go to Académie des Beaux-Arts of Kinshasa, because in Central Africa is the one of the oldest schools, starting in 1946, created by a priest from Belgium. So that's the way I'm going to start art school at Kinshasa, and that is.
Fantastic. And so one of the things that you did soon after graduating from Kinshasa was going to France. So what did France offer you in academic training that was unavailable in Congo?
France gave me something different because when I finished to study at Kinshasa, I go to teach 1 year at Lubumbashi. Lubumbashi is 2 hours from flight from Kinshasa. Is a city where you find cobalt. You see or a lot of mining, cobalt, copper, and in Lubumbashi. I stay 1 year, and after that they called me back to go to the artistic residence in France. So when I came in France, I was seeing, I say, oh, very interesting, because in Kinshasa, the school I was studies were very academic, to paint like Rembrandt, to paint like Van Gogh, to paint like Giotto. It was very, very academic school. And in France, I discovered all school I was visiting, it was very contemporary art. So first of all, I was decided to go just for 2 years because I already finished my school in Kinshasa. I was teaching in Lubumbashi. I go just for 2 years. But when I arrive in France, they don't recognize my diploma. So that's why I stay for 5 years first. And I stay long because when I finish the school, I want to go back, but the war starting again in Congo. So I decided to stay in France and to continue to live and to study other things. And the difference between the both schools is in Kinshasa it was very academic. In France it was very contemporary, very conceptual. You need to read many books, to speaking about the philosophers, it was very, very conceptual. But it's very interesting because now I have that kind of the richness of the both education from Kinshasa and from France. So that helped me to use different medium and to be just fine with everything I want to do.
Yeah, like a formal training and both a conceptual.
Yeah, it's a formal training about. My dream is if every art school in the world can be both. They have the techniques and that kind of the contemporary way to have the concept. But it's very difficult because many schools in the Western become more conceptual than to use the technique. So, but that's my mind, but I don't think so everybody wants that.
And so in France is where this series, the Chiromancy series, which is a selection of works from that series on display downstairs that are more recent. All of the works in the show here are from 2020 to 2023, but this series has been ongoing since 2008. And I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about chiromancy, the name, where that comes from, and where it starts with these really early works.
The name chiromancy is coming when the first time I meet a lady from Morocco. He have in this hand the henna, the drawing woman doing in the Arabic.
The henna ink.
Yeah, henna, yeah, exactly. And when he turned his hand, I was seeing that beautiful because you see the line on the top of the line of his hand. And that remind me the map. I don't know why, but that remind me the map, the line. When you travel on the plane, you see many lines, yes, and the water, the river. And I have a chance before me to going to France to take the UN helicopter when I was moving because of the war. And when you are in the helicopter, you see, you don't fly it very high, so you see everything. It's very beautiful if you have a chance to take a helicopter. But it was not the beautiful helicopter, but it was very nice to see the way you see the line, you see the water, and that make me every time I do in my life I like to do the metaphor or the difference with many things I see. And when I see that line, that remind me the map, that remind me the travel in helicopter. And also in this time I was living in France. I was asking myself how long I will live in France. So that question becoming with the question, if I stay long in France, if I will maybe lose my identity because I will stay long in France, so I will becoming French. But it was the joke we all made with friends because we were saying, I was telling them before me to coming to live to France, oh, you are lost because you lose your identity, you live in the Belgium, now 20 years. And for me, that question come back to me when I was staying in France. And that bring me to start the series you see here. First of all, I was called that deambulation, because I was, every day when I come back at home, I was drawing the line of my work in the city. Because I decide my home is Congo. So I chose something, some object I bring to my country. It's becoming like embassy. So I was looking that I'm come back in my country, so I'm come back like to be reconnect with my identity. So it was the small student room. So that's why every day I was making that line. And when I see the line of the hand of this woman, that bring me also to the way they create Congo. Congo is an utopia of Leopold II. Leopold II was the king of Belgium, and he decided one day to find a land. So he called two guys, Stanley and Livingstone, guys, find me a land. Because Leopold II was the cousin of the Queen Victoria. So it's a joke I'm doing here.
I love this bit.
In the joke, I say every time when he was going in dinner in London, he was saying, I want my land. And his cousin was telling him, we have also land, but you don't have a land. So he tell her, one day I will come back here in the dinner, Christmas dinner, I will tell you I have a land. So he sent Stanley and Livingstone. They find land for him. It was free land. No, it was not free land. It was
occupied land.
Yeah, it was occupied land. But they find the land. And that land is the mix of many kingdoms. So Congo Kingdom with K, Luba Kingdom, and Chokwe Kingdom, and Cuba Empire, many kingdoms becoming, and he created Congo. So I'm fascinated to Leopold. When I say that, people say, how you can say that? Because he killed people in your country. But I'm fascinated because he never been in Congo. Since he died, he never been in Congo. But he have a map at his office to say, this is my land. And the land is 80 times more big than Belgium. And the Congo was not the Belgium colonization. It was his own property. It was in private property. But he never been inside. So I was very fascinated to say, I'm proud to be Congolese. I'm born in Congo, but I'm born in the utopia of someone. And with the Chiromancy, the idea coming for me to say, I want to create my own utopia. I want to create my own land, the place I will decide where is the border, where is water coming, where is the mining, because I'm from in the country with many mining. But it's difficult for me to create that new land without to bring my own story in that land. So that's why the Chiromancy, starting with first of all, with the line of my hand. On top of that, I bring some place in Congo. I take the picture from Google Earth because I don't have yet satellite. So I use Google Satellite. It's very easy for me now. And on top of that, I made the link between the both story. The line from my hand, the line from Google Earth. So I mix that and I create another link. So the idea becoming me to looking what is the best space for me. So that's why I use the word, I colonize the canvas. For me to colonize the canvas is the way I create a new space for me to live. And in this space, I bring many stories inside.
Mm-hmm. You also spoke of an interesting encounter that you had working at a museum in Nantes that I wanted to bring up. And I wonder if you could share that story that you had.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot. No, it's because, also the Chiromancy is beginning of many stories. So that's why sometimes I forgot some stories. And I was working in France as a security guard in the museum, Fine Art Museum of Nantes, and one guy coming to say, hey, hello, how are you? Fine. Where are you from? I say, I'm from Congo. And he say, oh, I know your country. I say, oh, you've been in my country. He told me, no. Oh, I say, oh, how you know my country? He said, I'm working in the European satellite, so sometime I put the satellite on your country. I say, oh, very interesting. And that also bring me to use, that's why I use a lot of Google Map, because for me the Chiromancy is like, my eyes is a satellite, so I put the satellite on my land, on the land I'm trying to build. And that bring me also to idea of the Leopold II, have the map at home, and to say this is my property, but he's never been.
But he's never been there.
Never been. It's like the same guy I met in 2000, I think so in 2003 or 2004, he never been in Congo, but he know better my country because he used the satellite. So with the satellite, he can see many things and underground. So it was very interesting talk with him, but all of that bring me to use that kind of story and all of that reference to use that to create my own painting. It's like, it's a landscape, but it's different landscape. Because when you start at Académie des Beaux-Arts, they teach us the first lesson on painting is to paint landscape. So you put your horizon line, you put the tree, you have a sky, you have a ground. But also, when you go to colonize a land, you don't look the landscape. Or when you go to find mining, you don't look the landscape, you go down. Or when you go to find, sorry for my English, I forgot the name of petrol, oil.
Like oil.
Yeah, oil. You don't look the landscape, you go underground. So every time for me was like, I learned to paint landscape, but I want to paint map. Because we use map when we send military. Also, every that's coming also, I think so maybe to listen about the war in Congo, I was using map to know where is the military. Because I have a cousin who was in the army also. So every that bring me to understand the way for me to create a map. Because a map that help you to understand the land, that help you to understand where is something coming, where you can stop something, when you can move something. So that, for me, the map is very important, it's very interesting.
I wanted to talk also about these works that are in the show, the Goma series, which was kind of a subset of the Chiromancy series that use sand in the texture of the paint. And I just wonder if you could talk about Goma and where these particular paintings were coming from.
Yeah, Goma is the city east of Congo. And in Goma, in Congo in general, you have mining everywhere. So that's the problem. So you have mining everywhere. So in Goma, there are particular mining is, I forgot the name of that helped to create the battery for iPhone.
Lithium?
Apple. Not lithium. They have a lithium, but they have another, I forgot the name of this mining. It's more strategic.
Copper?
No. Oh.
Cobalt?
No. It's other mining.
Okay.
That's bring China to Congo. It's a very interesting, but I forgot the name. I will find it again them. And Goma is very interesting for me because they have a lot of mining, and they are near of a border with Rwanda. So when the war starting in Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi. So in the time of the Idi Amin Dada, they have a war in Uganda, so they leave that. In the Rwanda, every time they have something in the border, they have a problem in Goma also. And they have a problem with mining also. Another problem is the volcano. So every time in 2000, I think so in 2020 or 2001, something happened in the same time in Goma. It was the volcano and the rebel groups coming in the same moment. So for me, it was very interesting to see how the nature transformed the land and how the mining in the good or the bad way can transform also the land, and how some people using, because the rebel group, when they coming in this area, because they know they can take mining, they can sell it in the cheap way, and they can buy arms to continue to stay. So the people becoming in the middle of everything's happened. But if you go to Goma, you will see they have a beautiful park. They have a bonobo, it's very, very beautiful. We have the beautiful lake. Everything of that is the landscape. You can see, you can take a picture, Instagram picture. It's very, very beautiful. But when you go down, you go deep, you see everything is not beautiful. So that brings me also in my painting to use every time the aesthetic need to be beautiful, like the landscape. But in the ground is not beautiful. And so the Goma, so that's why I use also sand on this painting, because it was the technique I learned at school in Kinshasa. We use also sand the first time, I don't know why. But the teacher, they teach us landscape and to use sand. I don't know why. And for me, so the painting, that's why we were talking first to say, in Congo, they teach me the technique. In France, they teach me the concept. So in my painting also, I bring every time together the technique and the concept. So here in Goma, it was very interesting because in this time when the volcano coming, when you put in the Google map or you go in the geographic map for the volcano, you see how the volcano was, the lava of the volcano was just going on the road and the city is happening. So I use a lot of that to put on the Chiromancy on top of the line of my hand to create that kind of new space.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've kind of glossed over here is that in the interim between some of those earlier paintings made in France and this series, Goma, you moved from France to Canada.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if you could talk about when that was and what drew you to Canada, what it was about.
So I moved in Canada in 2000. No, first I came in Canada in 2003. I chose to come here because every time I made plans. So I chose to come here because in 2 years I was finished the school, and I know French government, they are so difficult to give the citizenship. I say maybe I will go to Canada. So I came with my art school in France to stay 6 months at Quebec, and I back in France, I forgot. And when I ask to have a citizenship in France, they say no. They say, artist is not a job, you need to find a job. So I decided to not find a job, and I asked about the permanent residency. So I'm sorry, but I came here first for the permanent residency. I don't come for the landscape, the beautiful of the landscape, no. I will not say that. It was important for me because when you have an African passport, many people, they don't know that, but when you have an African passport, Congolese passport also particularly, to move, to travel, you need to ask your visa 5 months before. So you cannot make a dream. When I was very young, I was watching on the TV a young guy from US who was made a world tour in the world. I was saying, one day I want to do that. My parents say, no, you can't do that because you need to ask your visa 5 months before. And my dream also was one day to come just in the airport to say, I want a ticket from Paris. They give me the ticket, I go to the plane. But with my Congolese passport, I can't do that. And that bring me that idea to say, I want a passport can just give me the freedom to travel. So that's the way, first of all, I came to Canada with my permanent residency. And in the first, I was thinking to come in Toronto, but my English in this time, it was not good. So I decided to go to Quebec first because in Congo we speak French. We have, I made a joke with Canadian people because now I'm Canadian, so I can make a joke. We have 5 languages, official language in Congo. And here we have just 2, but it's difficult. So we have 5. And for me, it was like, I'm going first in Montreal to learn, to practice my English, and after that, I will come to live in Toronto. But I met my wife in Montreal, so I stay. And that's why I came to Canada first. And that brings me also to understand, first of all, when I came, I was saying, I'm far with France and with Europe, because Europe is near with Africa about story. We are linked because of the colonization. And I was saying every time I say, Canada is very far. They have a note. Canada, they don't have an African politic. You know, the government, they don't have an African politic. They don't link with the story with African. But I discover we are linked with me. Because, remember, my grandfather, Leopold II, was the king of Belgium. And he was the cousin of the Queen Victoria. So now, because I'm Canadian, so I'm linked with the family of the Queen. So I was saying, I'm staying in family. So I'm from Congo, so it's the same. And also what is very interesting is the the history of colonization is in Canada. If you look, you can understand, for me, it's the same story as in the Congo or in Africa. So that helped me to use my life here as in a mirror to understanding myself and to understanding what's happening in my country. And other thing, what is very interesting is the mining company, because a lot of mining company in Canada work in Africa or also in Congo. So like I was saying, when I was living in Congo, I was saying, oh, why the Canadian coming with the company? But now I'm Canadian. So when my family, I was speaking with Sarah, I say, when I back in Congo, I speak with my sister. She told me, you Canadian, you coming to stall our mining? I say, yes, because you Congolese, you don't know how to use your money. It's very interesting, but, and for me, that brings me the question in my painting, I say a painting you see, that brings me the question to see how I can thinking about the land linked with me here. Like I say first, I colonize the canvas. For me, when I'm painting, I don't care about the story of the space because I want to use the same way Leopold was using to don't care about our space for me to think my painting. So I decided to make the Chiromancy, I call winter Chiromancy, because I made the reference with Quebec, north of Quebec. I use a lot of mining space in north of Quebec, and also to make a reference with Bordua painting, the series of black and white, and also the Riopel painting. So that brings me that series I call the winter Chiromancy. That brings me to, yeah.
Yeah, and so this winter Chiromancy painting, which you'll see downstairs, is a work that we've acquired for McMichael that we're very excited about to bring your work not only here for exhibition, but also to be here as part of the permanent collection. And this is a work that you mentioned is looking at that in Quebec. So you've taken the themes that
looking on the Canada, where is my place in this story? To put
how
my
do you
own,
make your utopia here?
Yeah, how to make my utopia here, linked with my own story. And also, it's very interesting because if you look in Canada, we have water everywhere. It's the same in the Congo. The forest is it's the same as the Congo. We have the mining, is this. So for me, in the first, I was like, I'm very disappointed because it's far. But when I look in the story, I say, it's very interesting because, and I like every time to use all the people as in a mirror because that gives me the chance to have, in French, we say avoir le recul, to have a distance. Because if you put your head in your own story every time, you don't have a distance. It's becoming for me, it's becoming sometimes very hard. So to use the story of other people, that gives me the chance to understand better my own story. Because I'm looking, something is related, like my own story, what is different, what is the same, and how can I use their story as a metaphor for my own story.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a nice place to transition to talk about a work that is quite different and this is another work from the Chiromancy series. And this is
my studio.
Your studio, what you're working on next, which is
the new studio they give me. It's very big.
But we have this other painting from the Christ Pantocrator series.
Yeah.
Which is a more recent series than Chiromancy. And it appears quite different, but I think it is linked to the same kind of project of colonization. I wonder if you could speak to this.
It's linked because I was working in the Fine Art Museum of Montreal. I worked 10 years in the Department of Education. So I discovered in 2017 in the collection they have a mask from my mom village. So it was very interesting because in my mom village, the chief of the village is my grandfather. So I make a call with him and I show him a picture to say, do you know this mask? He told me, yes. It seems like the mask we made here. I said, yes, it's from your village. He said, but how they have that? I said, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking in the document, I see the name of one priest bring that. And he told me, you can bring that at home. I said, no, it's not possible. It's not for you again. It's for the museum. And that bring me the story to link with the religions, because I'm Catholic. I'm still going to church. I know people, they don't going to church again, but like I say, I'm Catholic. I will still going to church until the end of my life. Because for me, when the Catholics coming in Congo, in Africa in general, but in Congo, they try to change, but they change us. They teach us to don't use again the mask, because they are saying the mask is not good, that's not gonna help you to go to heaven. So in my family, it was very fighting. My family mommy was very fighting, because when you are chief of the nation, you also chief, they call in French chef coutumier, the chief of the identity. So you also have that power to link you with the spirit. But the spirit is not just spirit, the Catholic spirit, is the Congolese spirit. And my great-grandmother was like a shaman. They told me she was, when you are sick, she was take you, she just built something underground, she stay with you like 2 weeks, and when you go up, you feel well. But when the Catholics coming, she stopped that, because she was saying, I don't like my descendants go to the hell. So she stopped to do that. So for me, it was very interesting to see the mask from the village of my mom in the Fine Art Museum of Montreal, and this mask was given to the priest. Me, when I traveled to live in Europe, the gift my parent gave me, my dad was saying, is your heritage. He said, I don't have money, I will give you this, your heritage. My heritage was the Bible and the Byzantine icon, the small one. So I travel with that. So that linked me to say, it's very interesting the way we have that religion on us. It's like, I think so for me, it's the 50% of part of my identity. That's why I say every time I don't want to stop to be Catholic, because I will feel like I'm losing something. I will go to see the doctor every time, because my education, everything I have, everything I learned, it's linked with that. And for me, it was very interesting. Also, I was doing another research for another project, and I discovered how the Catholics was work with the private company in Congo. Because in this time, it was not the mining, it was the rubber. It was in this time very interesting in the Congo. So the idea was, the private company pay the army go to burn the village, still praying the African ancestor. In exchange, the priest are gonna tell people, you need to go to work in the rubber, because you will go to the heaven. So it was like exchange. And that brings me to say, I will make the good exchange. I will find every mask from Congo or other country in Africa in different museum in Western. So I will put that on the face of Christ. So to make that kind of story, and also to show the contradiction I have myself every time. You know, I'm Catholic. No, I'm not Catholic because they killed my ancestor, but also I'm Congolese, but I don't know really how my ancestor was praying. So it's like that kind of you fighting with yourself. So to fighting with yourself, that give something is very bizarre. It's coming like a mix of like that. So I used the same technique again. The way there was painting the Byzantine icon, I used the gold. So that remind again with the gold also in Congo. And I used the painting, the portrait. So I love to use that work. It's very interesting because that helped me to go back in the technique I learned at Kinshasa. You know, that really helped me to go to redo that.
Mm-hmm. And then here is the example of the mask that's used. So you're looking at this exchange where people are, you know, the bringing of Christianity to Africa.
Yeah.
These things were taken and then taken away.
Yeah, if you go in many museums, you will see the people give the mask to the museum, the war priest. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting to know why take it, and they was telling people it's not good to use that.
Well, they're suppressing the traditions, but then taking them and then showing them as kind of spoils in Western museum
Yeah,
collections.
because they see something, it was very interesting. It's like when you are with kid, you say, oh, take it, I will give you everything. Yes, it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, and so these were the first works of yours that I was aware of in Toronto, because this work here was acquired by the Art Gallery of Ontario as part of, I think it's the first acquisition that was made by Julie Crooks, the director of the Arts of Global Africa and the Diaspora.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a really big accomplishment, I think, for you.
Yeah, it was very interesting because that helped me for this project, that gave me the chance to build my first chapel, because the idea of the painting is every time to build a new chapel, a Catholic chapel, but in my own way. Because when the priest was coming in the land, there was building the chapel. Not just in Africa, I think so here also, or in Europe, the first thing that was built, it was the chapel or the cathedral. So that's becoming like the center of the community. So for me, it's like to use, because I love to go to the chapel. The chapel for me is beautiful. I don't know how these people was working. They didn't have internet. They didn't have everything we have like in January today. But when you go to the chapel, without you be Catholic or not, but when you go to the chapel, you see the beauty, the aesthetic of what they was doing. For me, I love to go inside. And also is the place when you have a many story, the story from Saint Mathieu, Saint Jean, you have a many story. So for me, is how can I use this box called the Chapel of the Cathedral, but to tell my own story inside. So that's why when I made here, I made this chapel in AGO, you have the icon, but you have also the stained glasses. It was, I replaced the people in the stained glasses was the people who was working in the rubber. Because in the time of the people who was working in the rubber, they cut the hand of the people when you don't come with a lot of rubber. So for me, it was like when you coming in the chapel, you see the stained glasses, you see that beautiful again, but the story inside of the stained glasses is not beautiful. It's like the Saint Mathieu, the story is not beautiful because it was the guy and they kill him and it's becoming the same. So I use the same system for talking about my own story. So I use that as a mirror.
Mm-hmm. I think that kind of brings us to the next part of the exhibition, this kind of the tying in of colonization with industry and with trade. And that's something that this work, 1848 à nos jours, or 1848 to today, really deals with. And I wonder if you could start by talking about what is significant about the year 1848, and then if you could maybe quickly describe this project and how it began. This is another project that began back in France and has been kind of ongoing. Has continued since then.
So I will try to be quickly. The project starting, because first of all, every time I say I'm not linked with the slavery story, because I'm born in 1908, like was saying Sarah, I'm very young. And also because my father, my grandparent, also my great-grandparent, they know just the story of colonization. But in the idea, for me, I was seeing, because I love to learn system. You know, I can take time to learn how this company works, how this thing works. I love to learn how system work. And when I was learning the economic system, it was the time for me to understand what is the FMI. FMI in English is what? Fonds Monétaire International. International Fund. It's like World Bank. Yeah. I was trying to understanding that, because when in Congo, every time we say, oh, the World Bank give us money. The World Bank, I say, who is the World Bank? So I was trying to understand how the system was working, the trading, everything. So I see, for my analysis, I see is the same system was built long time, thus changing the way to work in different time. So for me, that brings me of the day of 1848, is the year when the French stopped to doing slavery. But the idea of when they stopped to doing slavery, they tell people, you are free, you are not slave again. But the thing they're doing, for me, is the same thing when you see the farm people. They tell to the government, we don't have money, we don't work. The government say, we will give you money. We will give you fund for you to work. And the same time when they stop slavery, they give fund to people who have a slavery for them to continue to work, because people were saying, oh, if you stop slavery, we will not have money again. But they don't give money to the slave people. So they still poor and they still to work. And for me, that brings me to imagine how can I talk in the same time the story for my country, my continent, the way it's treating actually with the World Bank, with the economic system, but linked with the story of the slavery. So that's why I decided, first of all, to create a bank. I create my own bank, and I print my own money. And
this is an example of the money.
This is an example of money. It's a really, really money. You can. I found my own paper to print my own money, and it took me 6 months because I was asking. I was living in France in this time. I was asking in different banks, can you explain me how it works in the bank? They were saying why. So one day I found someone in the Crédit Agricole, a bank in France. They told me, oh, your project is very interesting. I will explain you. So I decided to, because he told me if you need your money have a value, you need to have a gold and
reserve.
In reserve.
Yeah.
So I don't have a gold. So I decided to take the time I take to create my project as a gold. And I decided to take the money I put to print my money as in the gold. So with that, I give the value to my money. Like actually, 20 Mori, it's, I think so, €5. Actually, so I don't print a lot of money because I don't want to doing, in French we call planche à billets. When you say you print just money, you don't do it. So I don't print a lot of money like this. I need every time to rebuild my gold,
your reserves.
my reserve to print the money. And with this money, I starting to buy the spoon. Why the spoon? Because the first time I see the ship, it was not the spoon, it was people. But me, the first time I saw that, I was thinking it's the spoon. So that brings me to idea to, first of all, to paint, to make the painting of that. And that brings me also to think with the book called The Black Code in France, called the Code Noir. It was the book was made to tell people how to live with slave. So in this book, you have one article say slave is a furniture. So when you die, you can just give them to your kid or your child, exactly. So for me, the furniture bring me to the spoon because spoon is also the furniture. Also, the spoon, we use that for the sugar, and the sugar was blah, 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 and things. So, and the idea was, because now I have a bank, I have a lot of money, so I can buy all slaves, they're already gone. It's an ironic way to say, also, you cannot buy the story. The story, this is happening, but how can I live with that story? How can this story can just help me to go far away without just to stay with this story. So I decided to buy the spoon. Actually, I have 500 spoon, so I'm still buying this. And also that brings me to talk about, actually in Congo we have mining, but we don't decide the price of mining. Price of all mining we have is decided in the other way. So when you come with your spoon, I decided the price of the spoon. Whatever your spoon is, a gold, is a silver, your grandmother give you like 15, I don't care. I decide the price of the spoon. So I introduce also my money in the market. So that's kind of the idea I was using with this project.
So all of these spoons you are purchasing then? You are putting ads in the newspaper and you are soliciting people to bring you spoons, but you're setting the price in the same way that mining companies get to set the price of how much they're going to buy the cobalt that they're extracting or the uranium or any other material.
Yeah. And I have a board on my bank, decide, but I put my mom, the president of the board. She's nice. And with the bank, I have a paper, the articles. You know, it's really, it's not just...
Yeah. It's a real...
Yeah, it's a realist bank with like the real bank work. Every paper we have the, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you describe, and these projects might seem disparate because visually they're so different.
Yeah.
The Chiromancy series, the Christ Pantocrator series, and this work, which I ironically enough was purchased by a bank. It is a representation of the wealth of the own bank.
Yeah, I was very happy because when my gallerist called me and tell me, oh, RBC want to buy your piece, I was laughing. And he said, why are you laughing? I said, but I tell him, it's a genius. I create a bank. I create my own money and the bank want to buy my piece. I ask him, do you tell them what that piece is? He said, yes, I tell them, I send everything. I say, okay, fine, you can sell the piece. So for me, it was very important for them to understand what I was saying with the piece. So I say, if they understand, so
Yeah.
I was very happy.
Yeah. Well, it's these projects are all connected. I think yesterday you described it really beautifully by saying that we were looking at the macro with
Yes.
the Chiromancy series.
Exactly.
We're looking out at land, and then these other projects are looking kind of what happens on the land,
Exactly.
itself.
Yes. That's the way I build all my artistic project. Is the macro is the Chiromancy. It's like the satellite. You see, if you are outside of the Earth, you will just see everything. But when you go down, you see that's what's happening inside.
And these transactions that happen on that land, the exchange of money, or the exchange of ideas, or the bringing of...
Yes, for me also to create the money, I was asking my father every time, who decide that $10 is $10? That confidence we have on the paper, they print with ink, someone drawing on it, and with everybody say it's $10. It's like a religion.
Yeah, or something that Leopold II would do. He would just decide.
I saw it. For me, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, it's very beautiful because we trust in it. That confidence we give to the paper to say this $10 is $10. And for me, it's the same way how we build something. Whatever is bad is good, but how the system we create in the world, in a different society, to trust on something.
Well, I think we're at time, but I feel like I'd like to keep the conversation going if we have any questions from the audience, because I know that this is your projects are deceiving because they're so beautiful.
Thank you.
As objects, as works of art, but they're also so rich and deep. And so, I'd like to welcome some questions from the floor.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Sorry, me again. Merci beaucoup. C'est fascinant. I see you have diptychs. Okay, so you have the diptych that's been purchased by the museum, and then there's another one, a horizontal one. Can you talk a bit about the change of format, or why you have diptych, or is it because now you have a larger studio, or is it because you did say in an interview that your studio was at home, but now you showed us a picture of a much larger studio. That might explain the format.
Yeah, a very interesting question. All my painting that follow the form of the place I live. So that's why you see the first Chiromancy is very small. No, not the first, this is the second. The first one, it was like my hand, because I was living in the small space. And I was doing the series of 30, doing the series of 30. And when I move, it's becoming a little bit. And after that, I moved in another apartment, it was very small, and I met a guy. He already died, but he was an architect. He told me, I'm painting on the paper. He was using mylar paper. So he gave me the roll of mylar paper. So I was painting to put my paper on the door. So the Chiromancy from 2008, everything is very long like the door. So now actually I have the studio not the studio you see on the picture. That is the studio I have now because they give me space, but it's not the studio I own. But in my home, I like to stay at home. So I use my garage as in a studio. So the large of the painting is the large I can put on my garage. So that's why this is the size.
Very important to say that. We never think about that, but artists are always limited either by, having access to material or space and all that. So I was just intrigued as I looked at it and I realized, okay, it's very different than the other one. So thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. But it's very interesting because maybe a long time ago, I was working on a series because it was very easy for me to put on the, comment on dit valise encore? Luggage, yes. If I need to travel, I put everything in luggage. So every time you need to think the way you do your art, because if you travel, now it's 12 years I live in Canada, I know I will stay here. So that's why also I'm not putting every time my work in the series to put that in the luggage. Because before that, I was everything thinking how it can go in the luggage.
It's actually a portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. Some people tell me they buy something to other people with my money. But the story of my money, I don't try to print. I'm looking the place to print that because every time I go to print my money, they think I'm printing African money, so they don't like. Because I'm coming with my paper, so they say, oh, we cannot print that. I say, no, it's my own money, I'm an artist. But they don't trust me. The first money I print in France, it was very interesting because I looking everywhere. They say no. And some of my friends was working in the print of the city of Nantes. So he called me, they have a big machine for to print. And I was seeing how my money was coming. It was like on the bank. It was very interesting because I was like, oh, it's beautiful. And they cut like this, they make the lines. It was very nice. But actually the problem I have, many people, they don't to print my money. So I need to discover how I will make. Maybe I will just buy a print to print that at home.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.